when 8-year-old Destiny Williams managed to slip a crumpled napkin into the pocket of a man whose neck tattoos and gold rings marked him as someone dangerous at a Texas truck stop. She had no idea she just handed her fate to a man who'd buried bodies for a living. The 4 words, scrawled in crayon, "Help us please," would turn a routine fuel stop into a highway shutdown, a confrontation with armed traffickers, and the rescue of 5 children being transported to a fate worse than death. Big Jim's truck stop sat at the intersection of I-10 and Highway 285 in West Texas, about 40 miles east of El Paso. It was the kind of place that existed between places, a pit stop for long-haul truckers, a bathroom break for families on road trips, a nowhere spot where nobody looked twice at anyone. Victor Venom Drake pulled his black Escalade into the parking lot at 2:47 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon in late September. He needed gas, coffee, and a break from 6 hours of desert highway. At 56 years old, Victor Drake was a legend in circles most people pretended didn't exist. He'd built his empire in Houston during the 80s and 90s. Drugs, guns, territory, blood. They called him Venom because his enemies died slowly, painfully, and always knew exactly who had killed them. His neck bore the tattoos of his reign, a cobra wrapped around his throat, its fangs positioned over his jugular, and the words Drake Empire scripted beneath in elaborate Gothic letters. His hands were covered in ink, skulls, snakes, dates of significance only he understood. His knuckles read pain on one hand and death on the other. 3 heavy gold rings adorned his fingers, each one taken from a rival who no longer needed jewelry. But that was the old Victor. 15 years ago, his daughter had been killed in a drive-by meant for him. She was 12 years old. Her name was Aliyah, and her death had broken something in Victor that all his money and power couldn't fix. He'd walked away from everything, handed his empire to his lieutenants, disappeared into legitimate business. Car dealerships, real estate, a chain of laundromats. He still looked like what he'd been, still carried himself like a man who'd ended lives without losing sleep. But he hadn't hurt anyone in 15 years. Some monsters retired. They didn't stop being monsters. They just stopped hunting. Victor walked into the truck stop convenience store, grabbed a large black coffee, and was heading to the register when he felt something brush against his leg. He looked down. A small girl, maybe 7 or 8, was walking past him toward the bathroom. She was thin, too thin, wearing a dress that was dirty and too big for her. Her hair was matted. She didn't look up at him, didn't make eye contact, just kept walking. But as she passed, her small hand darted out and slipped something into the pocket of his slacks. So fast, so practiced. Like she'd done it before. Victor's instincts, dormant for 15 years, screamed to life. He watched the girl disappear into the women's restroom. Then, slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled napkin. 4 words, scrawled in what looked like crayon. "Help us, please." Victor's blood turned to cease. He looked around the truck stop, his predator's eyes cataloging everything. A white cargo van parked near the side of the building, windows tinted black. 2 men standing near it, one Hispanic, one white, both with the hard eyes and alert posture of men guarding something valuable. A woman inside the store, browsing magazines but watching the bathroom door. Us. Not me. Us. There were more children. Victor walked to the counter, paid for his coffee with steady hands, and stepped outside. He lit a cigarette he didn't want and leaned against the wall where he could watch both the van and the store entrance. The girl emerged from the bathroom 2 minutes later, followed by the woman from the magazine rack. The woman's hand clamped on the girl's shoulder, too tight, too controlling, and steered her toward the side exit. Victor pulled out his phone. "Dante, I need you at Big Jim's truck stop, I-10 and 285. Bring Marcus and the twins. Come heavy. Dante Jackson had been Victor's enforcer for 20 years. He'd retired when Victor retired, but some calls you always answered. What's the situation, V? Child trafficking. White cargo van, 2 males outside, at least 1 female inside. Unknown number of kids. I'm not letting this van leave. Silence. Then 20 minutes. Make it 15. Subscribe now, because what happens next proves that some men are built for violence. And sometimes that violence is exactly what children need. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. This story will remind you that monsters can become saviors. Victor finished his cigarette and walked toward the cargo van. The 2 men saw him coming. They straightened, hands moving toward waistbands. Victor didn't slow down. He didn't speed up. He walked like a man who'd never once in his life been afraid of anything. Nice van, Victor said, stopping 10 feet away. What you hauling? None of your business, old man. The Hispanic one. Young, maybe late 20s, trying to look hard. Keep walking. See, I would. Victor took a sip of his coffee. But a little girl just slipped me a note asking for help. So now it's my business. The 2 men exchanged glances. The white one's hand disappeared behind his back. I wouldn't, Victor said. His voice hadn't changed. Still calm. Still conversational. But something in his eyes made both men hesitate. You don't know who I am. Let me educate you. My name is Victor Drake. They used to call me Venom. You're too young to remember, but your bosses aren't. Call them, ask about me. I'll wait. The Hispanic man's face changed. Recognition. Fear. Yeah, Victor said. That Victor Drake. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to open that van and show me what's inside. If I don't like what I see, things are going to get ugly. If you run, things are going to get uglier. If you touch those guns, things are going to get fatal. Choose. The white one made his choice. His hand came up with a pistol. Victor moved faster than a 56-year-old man should be able to move. The coffee cup hit the white one's face, scalding liquid and plastic lid, and Victor's fist followed it. The gun went off, bullets sparking off concrete, and then the man was on the ground with Victor's boot on his throat. The Hispanic one froze, gun half drawn. Don't, Victor said. He wasn't even breathing hard. You saw what happened to your friend in about 2 seconds. You really want to find out what I can do in 5. The gun slowly returned to the waistband. Hands went up. Smart. Now open the van. Inside the van, Victor found 5 children. 3 girls, 2 boys. Ages ranging from maybe 6 to 10. They were seated on the floor. No seats, no seatbelts, huddled together in the dark. Their eyes were hollow. Their clothes were filthy. They flinched when the door opened, expecting pain. The girl who'd slipped him the note was among them. She looked up at Victor with desperate hope. You came, she whispered. You actually came. I came. Victor's voice was thick. You're safe now. All of you. No one's going to hurt you anymore. The woman from the store came running out, saw the scene, and tried to flee. She made it about 30 feet before Dante's Chrysler 300 screeched into the lot, blocking her path. Marcus had her on the ground in seconds. Dante approached Victor, taking in the scene. The unconscious man, the terrified one with his hands up, the van full of children. Jesus Christ, V. Call the cops, FBI, whoever handles this. I want these kids safe, and I want these people buried under the prison. What about our exposure? Victor looked at the children, still huddled in the van, too scared to move. I don't care about exposure. I care about those kids. Make the calls. The authorities arrived in waves. Local sheriff first, then state troopers, then FBI agents who'd been tracking this particular trafficking ring for months. The children were wrapped in blankets, given water, evaluated by paramedics. The traffickers were arrested, including 2 more who'd been inside the truck stop, unaware that their operation had just collapsed. Victor gave his statement to a FBI agent named Torres, a serious man in his 40s who clearly knew exactly who Victor Drake was, what he'd been. Mr. Drake, you understand that your involvement here raises some questions. Ask them, how did you know these children were being trafficked? Victor pulled the crumpled napkin from his pocket. A little girl slipped me this. 4 words. Help us, please. I did what anyone would do. Most people would have called the police. Most people would have done nothing. Pretended they didn't see. Told themselves it wasn't their problem. Victor met Torres's eyes. I'm not most people. And those kids needed help now. Not in 20 minutes when a patrol car showed up. Torres studied him for a long moment. The girl who slipped you the note, Destiny Williams. She's been missing from Dallas for 3 weeks. Her mother's been on the news every night, begging for information. 3 weeks. That child had been in hell for 3 weeks. The others? Still working on IDs. At least 2 are from out of state. We think this ring has been operating across Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana for years. Your intervention today might be the break we needed to shut them down entirely. Good. Torres hesitated. Mr. Drake, I know your history. I know what you were. By all rights, I should be looking for reasons to arrest you, not thank you. But you saved 5 children today. Whatever you were, today, you were exactly what those kids needed. Torres extended his hand. Thank you. Victor shook it. Don't thank me. Thank a little girl who was brave enough to ask a stranger for help. If this story proves that the most dangerous man in the room might be the only one willing to act, hit subscribe and share it with everyone. Because Destiny didn't have time to wait for heroes. She had to make one out of a monster. Destiny's mother arrived at 11 p.m. that night. Keisha Williams had driven 4 hours from Dallas the moment she got the call, breaking every speed limit, praying the whole way. Victor was still at the sheriff's station when she arrived. He'd refused to leave until he knew all the children had been claimed or placed somewhere safe. He watched from across the room as Keisha ran to her daughter, collapsing to her knees, pulling the girl into an embrace so tight it looked painful. The sounds she made weren't quite human. 3 weeks of agony releasing in sobs that shook her entire body. Mama, Destiny kept saying. Mama, I knew you'd come. I knew it. I never stopped looking, baby. Never. Not for 1 second. When Keisha finally looked up, her eyes scanned the room until they found Victor, this massive, terrifying man covered in tattoos, standing alone in the corner, watching. You, she said. You're the one who saved her. She saved herself. She had the courage to ask for help. Keisha stood, walked over to him, and did something no one had done to Victor Drake in decades. She hugged him. This small woman, barely reaching his chest, wrapped her arms around a man who'd been a killer, a kingpin, a monster, and held him like he was the answer to every prayer she'd ever prayed. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Victor's arms slowly came up to return the embrace. His eyes were burning. He thought about Aaliyah, his daughter, dead at 12, killed because of who he was. He thought about the 15 years he'd spent trying to become someone else. He thought about a crumpled napkin with 4 words in crayon. You're welcome, he said, his voice rough. You're welcome. 3 months later, Victor Drake sat in the front row of a Dallas community center, wearing a suit that cost more than most people's cars, his neck tattoos visible above his collar, his gold rings catching the light. On stage, Destiny Williams stood at a microphone, speaking to a room full of parents, teachers, and police officers about child safety. When I was taken, Destiny said, her voice clear and strong. I was scared every single day. The bad people told me no one was coming for me. They told me no one cared. They told me to stop hoping. She paused, finding Victor's eyes in the audience. But I didn't stop hoping. And I didn't stop looking for help. My mom always told me, if you're in danger, find someone who looks strong and ask. It doesn't matter if they're scary. It doesn't matter if they look mean. What matters is if they look strong enough to help. Destiny smiled. I saw Mr. Victor at the truck stop, and he looked really scary. He has tattoos everywhere and big gold rings, and he walks like he's not afraid of anything. Most people probably wouldn't ask him for help. But I thought, if anyone can stop the bad people, it's someone who looks like he could be a bad person himself. Laughter rippled through the audience. So I wrote a note, and I put it in his pocket. Just 4 words. Help us, please. And you know what? He helped. He didn't look away. He didn't pretend he didn't see. He helped, and now I'm home, and the other kids are home, and the bad people are in jail. Destiny looked directly at Victor. Mr. Victor taught me that scary doesn't mean bad. Sometimes scary means safe. Sometimes the person everyone else is afraid of is the person who will protect you. The applause was thunderous. 1 year later, the Drake Foundation for Missing Children opened its headquarters in Houston, with satellite offices in Dallas, San Antonio, and El Paso. Victor had funded the entire operation. Tens of millions of dollars from the fortune he'd built in blood, now redirected toward salvation. The foundation worked with law enforcement, funded search efforts, provided support for families of missing children. In its first year, it helped recover 34 children across Texas. Victor's phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. Mr. Drake, this is Agent Torres. Torres, what do you need? We've got a situation in Laredo. Another trafficking ring similar to the one you busted last year. We could use your expertise. Victor smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Send me the details. Some men are built for violence. They're born with darkness in their blood, raised in shadows, shaped by pain into something dangerous. The world tells them they're monsters. The world tells them they're beyond redemption. The world tells them the only thing they're good for is destruction. But sometimes that violence finds a purpose. Sometimes the monster becomes the guardian. Sometimes the thing that terrifies everyone else is the only thing standing between children and the abyss. Victor Drake had been a killer, a kingpin, a name that made grown men cross the street. Now he was something else. Now he was the man you called when children needed saving and the rules weren't working fast enough. Now he was Venom, and his bite was reserved for predators. If this story reminded you that redemption is real, that asking for help is brave, and that sometimes the scariest person you can find is exactly who you need, subscribe, share, and comment below. Because somewhere right now, a child is looking for someone strong enough to help. Be the person they're looking for, or make sure monsters like Victor Drake are there when you can't be.